And welcome everybody, it's Dan. Hope you're well today. Welcome to the Business Growth Show. Slight change to the podcasting stuff as we're doing more and more podcasts as it happens. And there's a very good reason for that. And you'll find that out when we talk about it just a little bit further down here. Where is it? Down here, just that bit there. Anyway, hope you're well today. Welcome. It's a happy Monday. Dreadfully difficult session at CrossFit this morning. Really struggling at CrossFit right now. But anyway, let's talk about business. Let's try and help some folks out, shall we? Let's talk about sales processes, specifically in business. Because, you know, I've been in sales for a long time, 51 now. I started selling floppy disks in college, age, 17? And before that, I was always doing something with computers. I was selling something. I've always been a salesperson. People say I've got the gift of the gab, and I think it just meant I talked a lot. I don't think that was a compliment specifically. It was just, Dan, you do talk an awful lot, but here we are having a podcast talking a lot, so there you go. It seemed to pay off over the long run. But when you get into business, everything you do is about sales. Like, you're dealing with a customer, you're in a sales process. You're helping someone out with customer service, you're in a sales process. And as humans, we've been in sales all our lives. When your kid wants an ice cream, and they go, "Dad, can I have an ice cream?" And you go, "No." And they go, "But I'll tidy my room up if I can have an ice cream." That's negotiation. So the sales process is there and it's built in. And some people go, "I'm not very good at sales." And it's like, well, did you get married? Yeah. Well, you sold yourself into having, someone to put up with you for the rest of their lives, or until you get divorced, I guess. And so everyone's selling at some level. You might not kind of think that it's selling, but it is selling at some kind of level. I always laugh at Grant Cardone's, whenever you get a no, that means they're interested. And he's insistent on that. And I kind of don't think that's the case at all. But you can make sales easier in your business if you actually design a sales process. So everything that we do is really designed towards making it easier that when we get somebody on a phone call, it's just the prerequisite to getting to a yes. It's not that we have to close that person on the call, although we will close them, using agreement-seeking questions and, moving towards agreement and that kind of thing. But before somebody even gets on a phone call with me, they usually know whether they're going to do business with me or not. And so, we've said this so many times, but I'm going to say it again. My job when I go live or to put content out is to kind of either get someone to like me enough to get on a call or for someone to hate me enough so they're never going to get on a call, right? Because I don't want my time wasted with people who are never going to buy. I've only got 24 hours in the same day like everybody else only has 24 hours. And every minute of the day is valuable time that I don't really want to waste with people that maybe don't want to buy whatever I'm selling. So if they get on a phone call and they already know they're likely to buy, that's a much better use of my time, as it is for you, than getting somebody on the phone and they don't actually want to buy from you because they hate you anyway, can't stand you, absolutely hate your guts. Brilliant. So hopefully we want to qualify those people out before we even get them on a phone call. And so part of our sales process is we go live a lot, right? Because not only does that set us up as an expert and as a person in authority, and we talk about what we know, which is a lot of digital marketing and property, because that's the sort of thing we've done. But it's getting people to know, like, and trust us so that when they actually do get on a phone call, they actually do want to buy from us. And it's not a massive challenge for us then to go and close that person. I'm just going to double check that we are live across all the channels, by the way. Yes, we are. That's nice. And so this is some of the stuff that's really, really important. In your own business, you should be doing this as well. You should be going live. I know we talk about it an awful lot and people go, "Oh, you're just talking about going live because you want to help them go live and make money off their content." It's like, well, yeah, that is part of it. But also, if we can make more people financially successful, imagine how much nicer the world would be. Imagine, for example, if everybody in the United Kingdom right now had a product or a service that they could sell and they'd make enough money to put food on the table, to pay their rent or their mortgage, to go on holiday twice a year, to drive a nice car. Imagine what that would do for the crime. Imagine how much crime would be reduced. And in the UK right now, let's talk about poverty. Imagine all those children right now who are not eating today, is it a million kids? Like there's a million kids, at least there's a million kids in poverty right now in the UK. Imagine being able to eradicate that completely. Just by getting people to have a product or service or to go out and get a job. And, you know, when you're getting a job, you're selling yourself in the interview or on the CV. That's really, really important. Imagine a world like that. Imagine if we could have such an impact to eradicate poverty one way or another through that. Like, that's why we're here. That's why we do it. And so, we have such a small voice, really, and yet it can go really far. We have such a large reach potentially, and so that's why we're here, and that's why we go live so often, is because we want to help the UK society get better. And if you can learn how to sell better, and so part of this process then should be about you designing your sales process. So my mum and dad were wedding photographers, and my mum would answer the calls and my dad would answer the phone calls that came in, and they would answer them differently. And it always confused me. I'm like, surely, if my dad was asking certain questions that would close a sale and my mum was asking different questions that wouldn't close a sale, surely it makes sense to look at what those questions were, have them written down next to the phone so that you can optimize your sales process. Like, I'm 9 or 10 or 13 years old when I'm looking at this. I'm like, this just doesn't make sense, right? And it's the same in your business. When we get a client onto a phone call, and bear in mind our sales takes place way before we even get them onto a phone call. But there's a whole process in place that we've put in place, like building rapport, finding points of common interest, smiling, for example. All that helps move towards people liking you and trusting you and helping you close the sale. And so that should be in there. What is that? Why is it not written down for you? And then before that, what is the sales process? I mean, really the sales process does start from marketing. The whole marketing thing has to be out there. Are you in front of your customers enough? Are they seeing you enough? And not only are they seeing you enough, are they seeing the nice side of you? Are they knowing you? Are they liking you? Are they in a place where they're building trust about what you do or say? And do they even like you, right? And so all of that takes place before the sale even starts, or it should take place before the sale even starts. And so if you've not got a sales process in your business, you might do okay. But imagine what you'd do if you did have a sales process. That is going to be life-changing. And so you've got to design a sales process. And this takes, grab a sheet of paper, write it down. What do you want your customers to do? What's the path? What's the questions that you need to be asking them? What's sale number 1? What's sale number 2? What's an upsell? What's a cross-sell? What's a downsell? A cross-sell, by the way, might be another product of yours. An upsell is where, they bought the £100 product, now you're going to try and sell them a £200 upgrade, right? Or a downsell is they don't want the £100 product, they're going to go down to a £50 product, and they're going to buy that instead. So at least you're making something, a sale, some cash flow from something rather than nothing. And so that should be the process in your business. And it just takes some conscious awareness, some thinking that's going to get you more sales in your business. And so next then we move on to, well, what are you measuring in your business? So for example, I was just looking at our YouTube stats. Let's just have a quick look at YouTube stats. And I was looking at the last 7 days, actually probably not the last 7 days, but the last 30 days. I'm just going to pull it up now. And I'm just grab a quick drink while I do this because my mouth is going dry. So I was looking at the last 30 days, just to see what our watch time is and how many views we're getting on our YouTube channel. And so our last 28 days is about the same as usual. And the reason for that is we put a video out yesterday. It got like 3,000 views. We're talking about rents, actually. And for some reason, rents seem to really kind of stoke the fire for some reason. Not necessarily our target audience, however. But so that was views, subscribers. We actually lost a couple of subscribers. We lost 5 subscribers on the 16th. So clearly we upset some people. I don't know what I was talking about. And then we're looking at what's our most popular video and what was it about? And actually it was about skyrocketing rent prices and so on. And then we might look at that, and then we might go to Google Analytics, and we'll look at that, and we'll go, okay, what was our last 30 days and in terms of traffic on our website, and what was that compared to the previous 30 days before that? And then we might even look at the last 7 days and then compare that with the previous 7 days. And then we start to ask us more questions like, what was our most popular podcast or video or blog post that drove the most traffic back to the website? And then if it's one about, let's say, Facebook ads, we should obviously create more articles and videos and blogs about podcasting or Facebook ads or whatever was the most popular one. But this is really important in terms of you growing your business. You want to be looking at what is working, what's moving the needle versus what's not working and what's not moving the needle. And that stuff is really, really important. And I know that most people just don't do that. For either, you get two types of people really in business, don't you? You've got this first type of person, and the first type of person is just really, really busy and they're just implementing a lot. And they might be going up and down, by the way, on their sales because they're implementing a lot, so they don't have a lot of time to do marketing. And then because they've not done any marketing, the sales drop. So then they do some marketing, then the sales go up. And so now they don't do any marketing because they're really busy. And so they have this roller coaster ride. And there's a lot of people like that, and that's fine. And then the other sort of person, by the way, is the sort of person who's got nothing going on right now, and they're struggling to make sales, and they're not even doing any marketing, which is probably why they're struggling to make sales. And so they're not even up and down with the sales, it's just flatlined. So it's like, well, how many articles are you producing? How many podcasts are you producing? How much video content are you producing? How many posts on social media are you driving back to the are you driving back to your website with landing pages? And are you getting them to subscribe to a Facebook group or to download a free widget or a free PDF of some kind? And so that stuff is really, really important for you to do as well. And of course, most people just don't do that, right? And so there's a reason why businesses fail within the first 5 years. And often it's because a lot of people are simply not consistent in the way that they're putting out their marketing. And if you can be more consistent, and if you can measure how many people are going from Facebook over to your website, or how many people are going from LinkedIn, and it might even be that there's not that many, it's actually Twitter that's moving that needle for you, or it's podcasting, or it's YouTube. But because you never look at the stats, you actually don't know. And so you're really going all out on LinkedIn, and yet it's actually YouTube that's the most popular channel. And so that might be the situation, but because you're not measuring it, you just don't have a clue what's going on. And so this stuff's really, really important. And by the way, this is Business Growth Show, but what you measure is really important. So like I stepped on the scales this morning, shock horror, as I end up in the 73 kilo section, whereas last week I was 72, and the week before that, before I went to Bali, I was in the 71s. I'm like, I'm putting weight on here. So this morning was a really hard session, back on a diet today, really, really strict, absolutely starving right now, but back on a diet, because what you measure can get managed. And if you don't measure it, how can you manage it? I once played a basketball game. I didn't know what the score was. So that changes the way that you play the game, surely. And it did. Didn't have a bloody clue what the score was. Are you more aggressive? Are you less aggressive? Are you slowing things down? Are you speeding things up? You've got to measure it. And like I say, what you measure gets managed. Very difficult to measure things, to manage things that you are not measuring. And then one of the next things that we've got coming up, by the way, is we've got a really good opportunity for you to be on one of our podcasts. And so we're looking for podcast guests. So if you go to daniellatto.co.uk/podcast exchange, and actually, I wonder if I can put this in chat easily. Let me go to Restream and just put this in chat. There we go. Put it in there. So if you go to the Podcast Exchange, we've created a Facebook group. So if you run a podcast show, or you want to be a guest on a podcast show, then you can go to this group and you can let yourself be known that you want to be a guest, or that you want to be you want guests to come on your podcast show. So you've got a number of opportunities there. We're looking for podcast guests to come on a number of shows that we've got coming out, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Let me just have a quick drink here. So we've got a number of shows coming up, and we've got a number of interviewers coming up. We've got some really interesting things coming up. So let's talk about the content and media company growth, because that kind of ties in. Tell you what I'll do. Let me just stick the arrow between both of those. Look at that. There you go. Because we're going to talk about both podcast guests and the way that we're kind of directing ourselves. So I had this kind of breakthrough, brainwave, crazy ass idea of we should really be becoming more of a media company, more than anything. I mean, obviously we own a digital marketing agency, but if we can become more of a media growth company, it opens up a number of doors for us, plus a number of doors for people coming on our podcast shows. So what we've got now is we've got a number of interviewers that are coming on that are going to interview podcast guests and run them under our podcast brand and our digital marketing brand, which is really cool. So if you're like a young entrepreneur who's doing really well and you want some media showcasing, or even media experience to some extent, you can come on one of our podcast shows. The name is yet to be designed, but it's really for people under 25, entrepreneurs that are doing really well. We want to interview them, and then that will go out across our podcast show, and it'll go out on YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and all the other channels that we have. And so you get to tell your story in an interesting way and you'll be interviewed. And it's really easy to do. So we're not only looking for podcast guests, which you can do through the podcast exchange, and the link is down below, but also our own business is changing to becoming more of a media company. So more of a media channel where, you know, we're not just interviewing people under 25, but we're interviewing people who are successful in property. We're going to interview people who are successful with their health. And you know, health covers all sorts of different things, from gut health to mental health to physical health. So if you want to be a podcast guest and come on board and talk about that, you'll either be interviewed by me or one of our podcast show interviewers, which would be really awesome. It's a really good opportunity, and it's also a really good opportunity for us just to create some additional content that's really going to go out there and help people. You know, over the weekend, I was really thinking about this idea as, you know, how can we really go out and help as many people as possible? Forget about the money for a second. How can we help people who've got IBS? How can we help people who are struggling mentally? I saw a podcast show just this week, and it was on Instagram. And the guy was basically breaking down during a podcast episode. And his mates were sat there, and they were kind of laughing at him. And he stormed off. And this guy was in pieces, right? He really shouldn't have been on the show. And his so-called friends just laughed at him, and I was like, the comments were just appalled. They would let this guy, and that, you know, his so-called friends were laughing at him, and it's like, how can we move beyond just the money and actually help people? And I figured the way that we can do that, and the way that we as an organisation can facilitate that, is to get people to come on board who've got a lot of experience with gut health, with mental health. We've got one of the chaps who's coming on. He deals with sometimes single dads, but dads basically, who have to balance all these different things, all these different plates that they have to spin. I'm going to speak with Johnny, he's called. We're going to speak to him later on. Welcome, Johnny, if you're watching. And this is just an opportunity to get his message out to a wider audience and actually to help people. And obviously, by the way, the women going through and spinning all these different plates as well. And so we'll get some of those guys on board as well. And then another one, like, you know, for side hustles, what are some of the side hustles that work really well? So you might have a full-time job but struggling right now. Are there interviews that we could do with people who've got side hustles and are making money from side hustles? Can we get them on board? And if you're running a side hustle right now, and you know, by the way, you might not feel like you're doing very well, but if you're making money in a part-time basis, then you're doing 99% better than most other people are, right? So you should come onto one of our podcast shows. and talk about what are you doing. That's really interesting. It's really inspirational, motivational. So this is kind of one of the things I wanted to create, was like a media broadcast channel that's much more positive than some of the bullshit stuff that we've got going on right now. Because some of the stuff that's going on right now is just pretty appalling stuff. You know, like we've got what's he called? Who's the Chancellor? What's he called? Jeremy Knobhead. I can't remember his name. And he's basically, you know, only 4% of people pay tax on inheritance, right? It's a £325,000 amount. Anything over that, you pay tax. Only 4% of the population are paying tax on that. And do you know what they're talking about doing, whether it happens or not, is actually increasing that number so less people pay inheritance tax. 4% of the wealthy pay it. And actually, they're even talking about reducing minimum wage. I mean, they just put it up, for God's sake. But if we're talking about reducing benefits and stopping people who are on benefits from being able to get medicine, I mean, it's crazy, bonkers stuff. It's so fascist, it's off the scale, right? And it's so negative, and it's out there all the time. And we want to move away from that. We want a positive channel, a positive place where people can get inspirational or motivational stories. You know, someone who's gone through bad health and recovered, someone who's run a marathon a day, every day for 365 days or 24 days or whatever it is. Running a bloody marathon is a start in my book, right? We want more interviews like that. We want more positivity and an opportunity for people to really have a chance to tell their side of the story and just help people. And so that's one of the things that we're going on. So if you're running a podcast and you need podcast guests, then click the link down below and there's the podcast exchange. If you want to be on my podcast, if you've got an inspirational, motivational story, if you're in business, if you're in property, you're doing okay, and you want to come on board, then click that link and come and make yourself known to me, and we'll get you on one of our podcasts. Anyway, look, I hope that's useful. A good 22-minute show there. But we're, for 2024, we're hoping to make some decently sized waves. We might fall flat on our asses, flat on our faces. Who knows, right? But that's the intention. So let's put it out there and let's see what happens. Anyway, hope you have a wicked week. Happy Monday, everybody, and we'll speak to you on the next one. My name's Dan Latto. Have a wicked week. Take care.